What I do is I help navigate and find the best bank, credit union, or non-bank SBA lender. I'm the true concierge of small businesses because I'm going to help you navigate and take it to the right lending institution, because every bank or credit union have a different appetite. I wanted to shoot this video for you and just really discuss the qualification process of SBA financing, whether you're buying a business, an existing business, or you're looking at doing a franchise startup. What are the general qualifications? How does the process work? I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to make the process as smooth as possible. So let's kind of dive into business acquisition. So per SBA guidelines, they're going to look at 3 years of the business tax returns and a year-to-date interim. Okay, so off the bat, typically you're going to sign an NDA. You're going to ask for financials. Usually they're going to give you P&Ls. You got to insist on getting the tax returns. It's so much better from the start to get the tax returns because we're looking for the cash flow of the existing business, the debt service, the new loan amount, right? And if it doesn't, we have to tell the story why, how we're going to improve the business. Now, SBA 7A financing can finance up to 90% of total project costs. 90% of total project costs, that could be purchase price, working capital, equipment, inventory. That all becomes the total project cost. So if the total project cost is $1 million, we can hypothetically lend up to 90% LTC, loan to cost, which would be $900,000. Now, you need to come in with $100,000. That could come from an investor partner that owns less than 20%. They don't need to go on to, they don't need to be a guarantor. It can't be borrowed funds from them, but they can be an investor that can own 15 or 19% of that business, right? And then they don't have to go on and sign a personal guarantee. Now, if there's no real estate involved, it's just a business acquisition, and there's a collateral shortfall. So any deal that's over $500,000 loan amount, and let's just say you're buying a business with no collateral. It's maybe there's a little bit of collateral. There's going to be a collateral shortfall. So if you own additional real estate per the SBA guidelines, they're going to look for additional collateral. And that means they might put a second lien on 1 or 2 of your rental properties. So be aware of that. There's also tips and tricks here that the seller can actually leave some of their equity in the deal on a note. It's called on full standby, meaning they can't take payments for the first 2 years. It can accrue interest. And if they do that, instead of coming in with 10%, maybe they do a 5% on full standby. Now you have to come in with 5% of that $1 million business, so $50,000. Potentially you can have them carry back as much as 7.5%. So that would mean on the $1 million acquisition, hypothetically, you could get in with $25,000 out of pocket. Now, they look at global cash flow. So they're going to look at your tax returns. They're going to look at your character, your resume, your borrowing capabilities, and that's how they're going to determine the approval at the end of the day. But on a business acquisition, it's really the stronger the business you're buying, the easier it is to get approved. Same thing with experience. If you don't necessarily have experience in that sector, you're buying an existing business, it's a little bit easier. Now, I recommend buying a business that's local to you. It's more challenging. Let's say you're in California and trying to buy a business in Texas and you're not relocating there. It's a little bit more challenging. SBA guidelines typically want you to be in vicinity of the business, okay? Because this isn't really meant for investment, although it is. It's really for an owner-operator type business model. It doesn't mean you can't have managers and such in place, but that's just kind of the framework of these small business loans. Additionally, on a business acquisition with no collateral, it's a 10-year term. There's no prepayment penalty. When the term is greater than 15 years, there's going to be a 3-year declining prepayment penalty. 5% the first year, second year is 3%, third year is 1% penalty. So that's typically on a real estate deal. They determine the length of the loan based on the purchase price of the real estate versus the business, and that's how they amortize the deals with commercial real estate involved. If you're a business owner and you're paying rent, you can do what we call a rent replacement. You can go buy a building. As long as you're occupying at least 51% of the space, you can get SBA financing, which could be the 7A or the 504. The 7A can be used for real estate, can be used just for a business acquisition. It's more of a flexible product versus the 504, which is really just a real estate type of vehicle, lending vehicle. There's pros and cons to both. Typically what I do when it's a potential deal that could be a 504 or 7A, we walk through the specifics of the deal to determine what might be the best avenue. And I can show you, from my viewpoint, why the 7A or the 504 makes more sense. Sometimes you can do a 504 with a 7A. Now, if you're doing a larger acquisition of, say, a manufacturing business with no real estate and it's an $8.5 million purchase price, you can actually do a conventional loan with a SBA 7A loan. We call that pari passu. They both have senior lien position, and you can do deals up to about $7.5 million that way. The SBA loans are extremely flexible, right? Like there's no other high leverage financing that can do what the SBA programs can. The loans aren't made by the SBA. A portion of the loan is guaranteed by the federal government, and that's why they do a little bit more aggressive deals. So in times like this, when we're going into this economic stress, it's a better time than ever where I think SBA loans are going to be more sought after because traditional lending is getting really restrictive. So what types of businesses are eligible? Pretty much any owner-occupied business, owner-operator type business models are eligible, except mortgage companies, anything with cannabis, anything religious denomination is not eligible. There's other programs that may work for those, but it's not going to be the SBA. We do have, you have to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. You can't be on an E-2 visa to get SBA financing. You can get extremely creative. You can do zero down deals. Oftentimes sellers are going to carry a little bit of the paper back. They're going to do a seller carry. So you can be extremely creative and buy a cash flow stream with very little out of pocket, which is totally doable. It happens every day. What I do is I help navigate and find the best bank, credit union, or non-bank SBA lender. I'm the true concierge of small businesses because I'm going to help you navigate and take it to the right lending institution. Because every bank and credit union have a different appetite. They all have different appetites, what they will do, what they won't do, even though there's a general kind of what we call the SOP for the SBA. But the SBA then puts a lot of the onus on the particular lender, and they say use prudent lending. So obviously banks have different thresholds and understanding of what the SBA says. So they're, especially because right now, every month they're coming out with new guidelines. Things are changing. So you got to stay up to date with what's going on. So to get ready for SBA financing, when you're doing a business acquisition, really, if your credit's good, you're buying a business, in the vicinity of where you live, you don't have a lot of business debts, your global cash flow is good, your credit score is good, you're probably going to be SBA eligible. You're not going to get a pre-qualification like you do, buying a home or a rental property. It's really going to be based on the business. Now, I can send you a checklist to show you the forms and stuff, but I really not going to get you pre-approved until we have at least a business and the financials of the business ready. Once we have that, then we can get a term sheet from the bank. So the process is typically you find a business you like, you have the checklist of items for you personally, you get the seller's tax returns for the past 3 years and a year to date. We kind of structure the loan, we figure out what the total project costs are. We submit for term sheet. Typically within a week to 10 days, we have a written term sheet. From there, if you like the terms, you would sign that term sheet and the diligence process would start to get to loan commitment, which could take anywhere from 20 to 30 days on an SBA 7A loan. Once you get to loan commitment, then you would go through the closing process. So the process for a 7A is going to be anywhere from 45 to 90 days. Typically, I would say most 7As are around 60 days without a lot of moving parts. Now, if it has real estate and there's a big value add component, because we can also do renovation loans. If you're buying a motel, let's say, purchase price plus renovation plus inventory, FF&E, that can be all in the total project cost, and we can essentially lend up to 90% of that total project cost. But deals like that, there's more moving parts. So anyway, just wanted to give a short but sweet overview on SBA loan programs. There's a lot to learn. Feel free to book a call, and I'm happy to meet with you and talk about your deals. But really, you're not going to get pre-qualified unless you have a business and the financials from that business. Now, if you're looking at a franchise startup, there's a little bit different process. We have to put together projections depending on the loan to cost on that. We have different loan programs. We have the Express loan, which is anything less than $500,000. It's either going to be an SBA Express or it's going to be a small 7A over $500,000. It's going to be a different bucket. The smaller SBA loans on a franchise startup, you can get to about 90% loan to cost. On a bigger, $150,000 and bigger loan amount, most banks are going to be anywhere from 80 to 85% loan to cost, depending on the scenario. Not all banks do franchise startups. We have specific banks we work with that love to do franchises because it's a proven business model and system. Anyways, happy to discuss. Talk to you soon.
Are you trying to escape the W-2 rat race? Or have you always wanted to own your own business? Have you ever thought about owning a franchise? If so, franuniversity.com can help. Our training program teaches you everything you need to know about franchise ownership, from choosing the right franchise to launching and running your business. We have the resources and specialists to help you from A to Z. You'll gain the skills and knowledge you need to succeed as a franchise owner. The best part, it's free to join. Go to franuniversity.com.
Hey guys, Bo Eckstein here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.